Y'all, hot yoga is such a trip. Let me tell you, I'm about to be dead from some hot yoga. I am about to be dead. And today it was like super intense. It was so hot. Essentially, it's like the 26 and 2 type of series, which I was like initially a little bit apprehensive to take that series because of the whole Bikram, the whole thing. You can Google it. It's like controversial type of stuff. So I was like, I don't want to do this. But I did it once and I was like, man, it's really hot. It's a 90-minute class actually. So you do everything like twice. Obviously 26 and 2, you do them like twice. But then you also do 2 breathing exercises at the beginning and the end. I got over my like initial apprehensions about the whole thing and I got into it. And oh my God, let me tell you, it is such a good meditation, spiritual connection tool. I was in class today and it was probably like halfway through the class. It's like 90 minutes, right? So like 45 minutes in, I feel like I'm dying. I'm sweating buckets of sweat from my body. I'm on my mat, just lying in there. In between the standing and the laying like series, there's like a 2-minute Shavasana. So we're in that. It kind of starts to hit you at that point, like usually. Sometimes it hits you earlier, which sucks, but usually it hits you around that point. When it hits you earlier, it really sucks. But it's so cool because you're in this super hot room, you're like sweating, you're doing these poses, you're focusing, you're meditating so hard that you essentially like disconnect from your ego. It's really an interesting and cool feeling. It makes you see your ego. It puts you in the like alignment with your like higher self. You know what I mean? You can witness your ego, which is so cool. It's a great tool to help you do that. And today I was like lying there and I just had the craziest insights where it came to me that essentially life is like, it's a circle, right? So it's a building of your ego and then also a dissolving of your ego, like within life. So when you're born as a baby in life, you don't have any type of ego, right? You're just like a blob. You don't have an identity. You definitely don't have any type of possessions that you're aware of. And then you don't have a title or like status really that you're aware of, like essentially you could be born as a king and have a title, but you're not really aware of it when you're a baby because you don't have an identity yet. But then as you are growing into an adult, you will gain an identity and you will have a status, you will have a title, whether it's like good or bad, you will get looks, you'll get all of these things that build up your ego and build up your identity, and you continue to build those for, like the first half of your life, and then really in the second half of your life, you start to dissolve those. So like your looks, like they slowly fade as you get older, and then you retire from your job, you like lose your title a lot of times. Even if you're like a king, you might have to like, I don't know if kings actually ever really lose their titles. Essentially what I'm saying is that you will eventually lose it when you die for sure. And then you'll lose all your possessions too when you die. So essentially you'll lose everything that you gained and you'll return back to that center that you started at. That kind of like nothingness and that egoless, like that energy of like nothingness and just potential that you started at. So it's like a circle. Life is like really a circle of this building up of your ego, and it's just kind of all ego. And then after it's built, it's like a tearing down of your ego. And it's like an interesting lesson that you would be born to build an ego to then tear it down. So I thought that was so fascinating. I had to share that with everybody. I was like, wow, I'm still kind of soaking it up and taking it all in, but really I was like lying there on the mat and it hit me and I was like, wow, this is crazy. Yeah, that's my hot yoga insights for now, kids. It was crazy though. Hot yoga is so crazy. That 90-minute like hot yoga 26 and 2 class, it is a spiritual experience for real. I was in it. So yeah, that was my essential insight. And then the rest of the class, I was really just kind of like pulling up things where like I don't feel good or like I'm comparing myself to somebody else. And I was able to like identify those as being, this is my ego. Because at that point, after I had that first realization where I was really like, oh, life is a building and dissolving of ego, I feel like I disconnected in a way from my ego and I was able to see it and observe it from another perspective, from like your higher self, like energetic type of source energy perspective, you know what I mean? So after that point, I was able to like see these things that came up that have been kind of bugging me, and I'm realizing that it's all bugging me because it's a challenge to my ego. These things that are coming up are challenges to my ego, and that's why it's bugging me. It's like this like attempt to like tear down my ego, to dissolve it in a way, right? And I'm like fighting it, and I'm like, no, like I have to be the best. That girl can't be better than me, or like it's like these people can't like that person more than me. They have to like me the most. And like, is she cooler than me? All this stuff. And even like in my job, it's like, oh, this person's above me. All this stuff that's really like coming down on me, that's like making me so anxious. It's just like, it's all bothering my ego. It's irritating my ego is what I'm trying to say. It's irritating my ego. And so I found that very fascinating, that I was able to witness those things and have like that second perspective to observe them and then let them burn through me. Because right, that's always so important when you get these type of thoughts and these realizations, when you're seeing this thing that's bothering you, when you see that it's irritating your ego, when you just allow it to burn through you, right? You don't resist it. You allow it to burn through you. And essentially it burns your ego until you get to a level where you hit the wisdom underneath it. And you burn that like energy up, or like transmute it into a wisdom that can then be used to like raise your consciousness. That's what I'm trying to say. It can be used to raise your consciousness. So that's essentially what I did. I like had that separation where I was able to view these things, let them burn through me, and then gain the wisdom from it, from that like higher self source perspective. So yeah, that was my hot yoga experience. This was like probably the 4th or 5th time I've done this class, and this was a good class in terms of insights. The class before this, that was a pretty good class too. I didn't really get any insights. It didn't seem as hard as the last class, but then the very first class that I did, it was such a cool experience because I had this very similar type of vibe, but instead of like having this like wisdom that I'm sharing with you today, I had more of an experience of being in a desert, you know? I was like having almost what I would say was like an out of body experience, where I felt like I was in the room and still aware, but then I was also like in another dimension, in another reality, like in this other world, you know? So it was super cool and super trippy. So y'all, hot yoga, such a trip. I recommend trying it out. It's crazy. And afterwards, I'm so sweaty, as you can see. My car has gotten better, but like literally it was fogged up. I was so sweaty. It was crazy, but it's so worth it. And I just feel like, you know, such a refresh, letting go of all this like toxins, even though I'm not 100% sure if hot yoga actually works to relieve toxins, but I know that I'm relieving some like emotional toxins. You know, you're able to just let go of that stress. It's a good way also to center, connect with who you are, and just really ground yourself and try to find your purpose. I definitely recommend hot yoga. If you have any questions about hot yoga, I've been going since like 2018 and I love it. So if you have any questions about it, definitely feel free to comment below. On my first class, I will tell you that I wore leg warmers, which mistake number 1. I also wore like a sweatshirt, mistake number 2, and then I had to leave the class in the middle because I had worn a sweatshirt. So if you're going to hot yoga, wear like a sports bra, maybe like a tank top, and then wear like yoga pants. That's fine, but don't wear a sweatshirt. Don't wear leg warmers, which I'm sure you already all know that. I needed that type of advice when I was going to my first class. I would love to know if you got any hot yoga insights as well. You know, that's great stuff. So share that below. All right, you guys, have a good rest of your week. That's all I got for you. That's my hot yoga insights for today.